I think we're live. I'm not 100% sure if we're live. I should probably switch the audio for this to my audio headset. Let's see. Stream URL. Is that usable? Try this. Does this work? Let's put a post on here. No. That's not going to work. It says that I am streaming. I don't know if I'm streaming. If I am streaming, I cannot tell. Oh, I am live. There we go. I'm going to throw this on here to do this. Got it. Figured it out. Deleted. Figured it out. Here's the link. Throwing this on there. Throw that on there. Throw that on there. Now I'm live. Looks like we have a couple listeners. Brian, hello, hello. Thanks for being the first. Thanks for being the first person on the podcast. My first podcast in Panther podcast. Gonna be my first. Hello, Stack. This is gonna be my first Panther podcast in like I don't know, like 10 years. It's even been besides that one like Youngstown State rant and that or was it the camera rant? I haven't even done like a YouTube video for a while. Can you guys hear me? Because what I'm looking for first and foremost in here is an idea of um how everything's working as far as the audio. Um, the visuals are going to change. This is something, this, with this, all this over here, this is all something I threw together in like a minute and a half. Um, I'm not going to put a lot of stuff on the screen tonight. Long term, I'm going to have the plan for the future video, future podcasts is that the audio for this will be kind of broadcast. It'll be saved and then uploaded as podcast later. I do have. I should share the Discord in case anybody wants to pop in, ask questions, say say something. This is going to be mostly just me talking to start with. I'm going to put up a link here for the podcast for the Discord. So if anybody wants to join in the audio part of the Discord, we're going to have some things that we're going to talk about today. Um, Mostly it's just going to be just Panther basketball stuff, but I just want to kick around some ideas. So if you have anything that you want to talk about, you can either enter it in chat or you can enter it or you can pop into the Discord. Tonight, I'm not going to do a whole lot of moderating the audio or moderating like the voice chat. So if you really want to be part of that, hop in. That's going to be a big thing. Just to give you guys a little bit of background on what's going to be going on with the podcast. For those who don't know, my wife and I are going to be moving back down to the east side. I shouldn't say back down to the east side. I never actually lived down there. We are moving down towards the end of the month, and I'll get to that, Brian, in a second. So the podcast will be there. I'm only a few blocks away from the Kalachi Center, so I'm hoping at some point to start pulling in people from the university, from the department, from the basketball program. I'd like prominent fans to come on and talk. I've already gotten a few people to agree from that angle mostly. Um, People who know more about Panther basketball than I do, guys like Paul Spicuzza, Kenny Peterson, the president of the Black and Gold Club. A lot of real Panther fans out there. Um, what we are going to be talking about largely tonight, I came up with my list of everything that I wanted to talk about. I would like somebody to kind of bounce in audio wise if you're available. If you're not, don't worry about it. But first off, to get through what Brian was asking about is who do we know that's returning? Who do we know for sure is returning? And we know a few of the guys that are returning. Um, in fact, I don't know if there's anybody else we're going to lose off of this team. Um, just to run through the roster, Pierce Spencer is done. Elijah Jameson will be a junior next year. He's coming back, as far as I know. Zach Howell is gone. Zach Howell is transferring out. Don't know exactly where he's going to land. Kentrell Pullian is coming back, as far as I know. Angelo Stewart's graduated. Eric Pratt's going to be a redshirt senior. BJ Freeman is gone. We all know about that. We know that Kentucky is taking a look at him. We know that there's probably a list of about 50 schools that are willing to pay him money to come play for them. Um, and we're willing to pay him money. Like Milwaukee's willing to pay him money. The Panther Future Fund is would definitely be interested. I just don't think that we're going to come close on the dollar amount that he's going to need to stick around. And I think that's for the best. Lyric Davis should be coming back. Langston Wilson's graduating. Do want to mention that I'm very excited for Langston Wilson in the dunk contest. Having Ahmad Rand and then Langston Wilson in back-to-back years in the dunk contest is pretty special for our program. I'd like to see Langston. Um, I'd like to see Langston win it. Ahmad wasn't able to, pull down that win, but getting the participation is a good step. It's my cat Freya. Simeon Murchison's coming back. He should be coming back. McQuay Reek, I think he's definitely coming back. I haven't heard about Maurice Thomas or Vinko. The only player that I had really much, if any, concern about losing is Faison Fields, but I don't think he's going to. Um, I don't think Faison's going anywhere, so I think we should be fine on that angle. And then um, Aaron Franklin should be coming back, and Dominic Ham's gone. Darius Duffy's coming back. So, from what I gather, I think we have a solid. Let's see. I think we have 11 guys, 10 guys. We have 10 guys on scholarship. Um, yeah, I'm not surprised that Jake said that. So these are the 10 guys we for sure have on scholarship next year. We have Elijah Jameson, Kentrell Pullian, Eric Pratt, Lyric Davis, Reek Faison, Aaron Franklin, and Darius Duffy. Lovelace and Stackhouse. Or sorry, Lovelace and McKee are the two incoming players that are going to be on scholarship. MJ Stackhouse is going to be a walk on. I think he's a real project, but I got to see him play. I know Mike got to see him actually play in person when Indian Trails played at Franklin. Was very impressed. So, and from what I've seen, he looks pretty solid. So it looks like we're going to be doing all right there. Um, I have talked with a couple of the coaches. Um, this weekend, there's not going to be anybody coming to campus because everybody's going to be at the Final Four. For those of you who don't know, one of the benefits for the coaches of the Final Four being at the um, one of the benefits of the Final Four being in a giant football stadium rather than a basketball arena is that pretty much everybody who wants to get tickets gets tickets. All the Division One coaches get tickets to the Final Four, so all of our coaches are there. For those who are unaware about what that really means, I've had a couple conversations, mostly with fans lately. Nobody's really. We're not. I'm just playing scenarios out in my head. The thing about the Final Four is that it's the most. Um, the Final Four is like the biggest networking event for basketball coaches. Um, just about everybody goes to the Final Four. If you're not going to the Final Four, it's because you got other life stuff going on, or you're set. Sometimes coaches don't go, but even the big time coaches will go to the Final Four because you never know when you're going to meet somebody, or you know, maybe you're going to have meetings with somebody. You're going to have, conversations, a lot of scheduling conversations. A lot of business cards get swapped for scheduling. Um, and we'll go over the schedule over once we get into the summer. Once I have the actual like the Beast Side set up in the apartment, um, we'll be going over the schedule a bit more, and we'll also do more of a deep dive into this past season, both the non-conference and conference schedules, as well as the conference tournament. Um, so nobody's coming to campus this weekend. They're all going to be at the Final Four. The following weekend, it sounds like they're going to start doing multiple players on official visits until they have everything full. Um, I I don't think a decision's been made on whether or not they're going to keep a scholarship open. That has been a part of the conversation in the past. I haven't gotten too deep into it with the current coaching staff. In fact, I don't even know if I've ever have asked any of them yet. But past coaching staffs, both here and elsewhere, have kept scholarships open to get transfers to come into Milwaukee. Um, probably the biggest example of a spot being held for a guy who transferred in at the after the fall semester was Matt Tybee, who transferred in at the end of the fall semester in 2012. And so he played 2013-14 was his first season. Um, Big deal for the program. I mean, he's gonna be he was top five all time for forwards, post players in Milwaukee history. Um, I would love, putting together all time Milwaukee teams. I would have loved to put BJ Freeman and Matt Tybee on the floor together as players. Um, the ego, the egos on that court would have been next level amazing. A lot of a lot of the Horizon League fans would despise us so much more than they already do. And I am going to be I am disappointed that BJ's moving on, but he's got to do what's best for his career, and I don't think any of us hold any ill will towards him for that. Best of luck to him with that. I do want somebody else that's moving on. I do want to touch and I do want to touch base on this is definitely we're talking about Markeith Browning. Um, so Markeith Browning, as everybody knows, kicked off the team in December. Never really left the program. Definitely stuck around. Um, he was around the OHAO enough. Mostly he was at the games. I think it was Mort made sure he had somebody made sure he had a courtside ticket for every game, and I didn't notice any bad blood between people, but maybe there is some because the word got to us today that Markeith Browning is actually going to be and currently is taking an official visit to Green Bay with Sundance Wicks. This is a development I was not expecting. I was not expecting that development. This is kind of a big deal. Um, I don't recall any Milwaukee to Green Bay or Green Bay to Milwaukee transfers. I know that there were a couple guys in the middle of the last decade who were looking to transfer to Milwaukee for 2015-16 from Green Bay, and they ended up staying, which worked out for them because Green Bay went to the NCAA tournament. Which was good for those guys. Um, I don't know if any of our players going up there. I do, obviously there will be, the father son stuff. Bree Perrine played for Green Bay when I was a student. He was a couple of years younger than me. His dad, Ray Perrine, was on a few of our first teams after we came back to Division One. In fact, Ray Perrine was on the team that beat Wisconsin in 92-93 in Madison. Um, that he was on the team that played in front of 8,000 in the Mecca in that 92-93 season. Very, very, very big, big deal. And it would be a big deal if Green Bay were to pick up. It would be a big deal if Green Bay were to pick up Markeith Browning. One thing that Green Bay is really going to miss with all these transfers out, and we don't really have a full idea of what that team's really looking like. But Elijah Jones, a little bit bigger, bigger player than Markeith, but definitely somebody who was a huge part of that defense. Um, Clarence Cummings defense, he's a little bit more of a. None of these guys are really, the Markeith Browning wing kind of defender. Um, where I'm big on Markeith as a defender is that he reminds me like a Drew Holiday. He's very good at communicating with players on his team. Telling them you got to hit your spot here, you got to face up on that guy there. Um, Green Bay definitely was missing that this last year. They are definitely missing it in the quarterfinals of the Horizon League tournament. I will say that they could have used some defense in the quarterfinals of the Horizon League tournament. I don't remember the outcome of that game. Don't remember the outcome of that game, but I seem to remember enjoying myself. Um, Rich Byrie's out. That's the one of the big lugs. Ryan Wade is out. Jacob Anchak, the big muscly Canadian guy, is gone, who barely played, and then obviously Noah Reynolds. Uh, they're losing some defense. They're losing a lot of offense. But the biggest, and I think really the biggest thing, if if Markeith Browning were to find a home at Green Bay, is that you have somebody who is incredibly motivated to play against Milwaukee, because Bart Lundy did make that decision that Markeith is no longer going to be on the program, on the team, kicked him off the team. Um, there's not a whole lot you can say about it, right? It's scary in that I don't know if we've ever had a player that was that motivated to beat us. But at the same time, I do think that um, we're going to be so much better than Green Bay going into next season, unless there's some massive change on the transfer portal. If like Noah Reynolds decides to come back to Green Bay and they've got maybe it's Reynolds and Browning and like a bunch of other guys. I do know that Green Bay does have that NIL collective up there, so it is possible that they can pull in some players to replace these guys who've gone missing. But over the long haul, I really just don't see them being better than us. In fact, I don't really see anybody being for sure better than Milwaukee. Um, Trey Townsend hasn't officially left, or he hasn't officially jumped in the portal. So it's a pretty big deal for them that they're going to be doing that. That they could. The NIL collective at Green Bay is being run by several guys, and I believe Sarah might actually. I don't know if he's on the. I don't know if Sarah is on the committee that runs that NIL. I think he's on the committee. I think he's on like the. I think he's in the chancellor's circle up at Green Bay. Um, I I've also thought of this. I thought that I've thought this idea of like doing another, doing like a series of different kinds of podcasts where like a B-side one would be like strictly like Panthers. There would be like a Horizon League or like mid-major kind of specific one. I do kind of want to explore the idea of doing a podcast with Sarah like once a week during the season and call it Arch Rivals. I love that idea. um, I had that thought after they came down here and we whooped up on them at the end of the regular season, because Sarah and I had a fantastic conversation at the Major Goolsby's. That game ended at like 7 o'clock at night, and we ended up like leaving at like 11. We were just having that nice conversation. Not a lot of it could go into the podcast, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but some of it could. Some of that behind the scenes stuff could. Um, he it's really funny. He's a part-time Phoenix fan. Uh, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed the bit of as Matt and the other Whitewater kids like just having this just vendetta against Jim Saro for like the smallest the smallest of negative tweets towards them. They turned it into this like multi-year just grudge match. It's fantastic. Um, Besides that, oh, that was Luna. Hello, Luna. How you doing? You good dog? She's a good dog. I do want to touch base on a few things. Number one with the coaching changes in the Horizon League. This is also something I gotta be able to like. Let's see, where is the? I gotta use dark mode because switching back and forth is kind of not great. These are things where I'm gonna look at it afterwards and I'm just make some decisions on whatever. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be a thing because when I go from this to like this, you can see like the light changes. I don't want the podcast to look like me like just like sitting in front of my computer. I do want to switch it to, I don't know if it's gonna be a table or it's gonna be like two people like on a couch, casting couch. Um, but we'll figure something out. Um, we do have a really nice setup with we've got like a lunch counter that I think would look really nice. Um, Hello, Bob. Listeners, this is Bob McDonald. I decided to do it like a little while ago, so don't feel too bad. I think that would be fun. Wouldn't it be fun? I think I think a an arch rivals podcast would be great because we get along very well, but we also do like taking shots at the other program. So if Markeith Browning ends up going to Green Bay, that would be a. See, that's the thing. Like, so Horizon on Horizon Crime is when the guy enters a transfer portal and leaves. Like, he makes his own deal. Ooh, good point, Matt. Good thing. Let me throw in audio. One of the guys on the YouTube just pointed out that we can't hear you. So
No, you can't. Are you using OBS?
I am using OBS, and I think they can hear you now. One of you guys tell
Okay.
us if you guys can hear Bob.
See, this is why I'm here, so I can help you test these things.
Well, this is for specifically. You know, my wife and I are moving down to the east side at the end of the month, and we're going
To a
to
deluxe apartment in the sky.
a deluxe second floor apartment in a building on Oakland. All right, Brian says we can hear him. Good.
Okay. I'm sorry for that in advance. Actually, no, I'm not sorry about
Um, Stack on here. Mike makes says Will Sarah is going to be in a state of pure jubilation if he gets his Horizon on Horizon Crime. Are you familiar with Will Sarah on Twitter, Bob? I
that. Oh
know
dear
that
God! Don't tell. For the love of God, don't tell him this.
you're not like on Twitter anymore. Wink, wink. But it's
Oh,
he's
you know that's a lie. You know I run the Horizon Roundtable
right,
account.
right. Well, I know, but
This is a lie.
you don't tweet from your own name anymore. Is the point?
Oh God, no.
Um, is this the guy who does mid-major madness spaces with Horizon League? No, Bob McDonald here is
No,
the
that's Nick Lawrenson, but I do when I do the when he does do the Horizon League one, I'm on with him. 2 years in a row.
oh okay, fantastic. But we
I'm
should
everywhere, man. I am a ridiculously sad amount of omnipresent.
So I had Panther U, the website that looks like it may possibly be making a comeback, but was where I covered the Milwaukee Panthers basketball program, mostly in like editorial like blog format. Um, Bob has gone and made the Horizon Roundtable, which was the original name for the podcast that he and I started. Like what was it, 11 years ago? We started that podcast.
Um, 9. Be
9 years
9
ago.
this year.
Okay,
Or
so
eight and a half.
it's been a long time
Yeah.
since the Horizon Roundtable started. I was your co-host for what, the first 4 years of it or something like that. Um,
Sort of, because there was like a year and a half we didn't do anything.
there was a year and a half where we didn't do anything. Um,
And then we decided, to come back right after the Loyola's Final Four. You gotta love it. Loyola goes to the Final Four, and they're not in the Horizon League anymore. And we decided to do the podcast again.
it was so funny because so like when Butler went to the Final Four from the Horizon League, right?
Yeah.
You had this team that in 2010 when Gordon was there, they ran roughshod over all of us on their way.
Yes.
And that was only a year after you guys. For those who don't know, Bob's a Cleveland State fan. That was only a year after you guys went to the second round. So the Horizon
Right.
League went to this. You know that we had in a space from 2003 when Butler went to the Sweet 16 to 2011 when Butler went to its second national title game in a row. The Horizon League had more NCAA tournament wins than every conference that wasn't a high major. Um,
Yeah.
and that includes the Atlantic 10, that includes the Missouri Valley, that included, yeah, I mean, most of them. And the Missouri Valley had a couple Sweet 16 teams and a Final Four team in Wichita State.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
the Horizon League just did it better. So since I'm running this podcast,
And then everybody left us.
I since I'm running this podcast, I can point out that Matt Dudek was not here for any of that. Oakland was not here for any of that. So the Oakland fans who loved their to defend the Motor City Madness, and I will say that I agree with the assessment of others that Indianapolis ain't it. Um, the
I
Fairgrounds
have other
Coliseum
reasons.
specifically sucks.
I have certainly other reasons for that, but that's a whole other. I'm not even going to get into
But
that.
I will say that I enjoyed the time
I
in
sacrificed the
Detroit.
car, goddammit.
I enjoyed the time in Detroit. I do think that Chicago would be a better host city, um, for a number of
Ah,
reasons, but it doesn't matter. The point is that the Horizon League used to have a format that almost all but ensured that the best team in March would go to the NCAA tournament.
double bye.
And you had a double bye. The top seed hosted the quarterfinals and semifinals. So if you were so you the first round was on a Tuesday. The teams that won 3 through 10, the teams that won those games would play Friday night against each other in the quarterfinals. Those winners would go in the next night. They would play the semifinals against the number 1 and number 2 seed. The highest quarterfinal winner played the 2 seed, the lower of the two played the 1 seed, and oftentimes that was Butler. I think from 2003 to 2016 when that started, I think it was Butler, then Valpo and Milwaukee. I think maybe Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee
Green
may have
Bay.
hosted.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't forget. Probably the reason this all died is because remember Green Bay hosted,
Yeah, the
lost, and then
2014, and we can talk about that, but like the point is that it was a format that John LeCrone and the Horizon League came up with in order to make sure that they could put the best team in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And they tried to recapture the Magic after they went to the neutral site tournament and failed. They did have conversation with the NCAA about doing a double elimination conference tournament like baseball does in the Horizon
Mhm.
League. The NCAA put the kibosh on that. They said no way, no how are you going to do a double elimination conference tournament, which I'm totally fine with. Um, but we won so many games as a conference. Milwaukee had 3 wins. Cleveland State had a win, and obviously Butler had all of its. And the funny thing is that almost that entire era, Butler was the standard bearer for in 2003. We beat them to get to the tournament, but they were in at large in 2003, and they went to the Sweet 16. And then 2007, Licklider took them to the Sweet 16. Brad Stevens came in, and obviously they went to the Final Fours. Um, this it was designed to ensure that those teams had the deck stacked in their favor, so that if a team were to break through, like in 2014, when Milwaukee beat Green Bay and then Wright State on its way to the tournament in 2014, it would ensure that the best team in March is the one that was there. Now, I don't think the Horizon League had a team in 2014 that was going to win in March in the NCAA tournament. And it wasn't because Green Bay wasn't good. Green Bay was very good. But Green Bay was walking into that conference tournament wounded and left it even more wounded because Alec Brown had the shoulder injury and Kiefer Sykes had was it ankle or knee? I couldn't remember if it was an ankle or
I,
a
I want to say it was the angle.
knee. Yeah. It was
I want to say it was.
they were the walking wounded.
Trying to get me to remember stuff from 10 years ago, man. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think Alfonso McKinney was like their only real, like, truly healthy guy at that point, and he had missed like a bunch of time the year earlier.
Just hilarious because he's like the guy we, and that I always marvel at McKinney being the guy who spent the most time out of that group in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, I mean,
I
he's
mean, that's a
also
testament.
he's definitely like he was built for the NBA. He's very
He was. That's true.
he was not like the strongest body, but he had a ton of bounce.
He
And
did.
Kiefer Sykes was a better player, but Kiefer just did not have NBA size. Kiefer's still playing in Europe. It's just he's I'm sure he's got to be making a lot of money at this point. But
Is he back in Europe? I thought he was in the G League still.
is Kiefer Sykes in the G League? I think.
I thought he was. I thought he was back in the G League this season.
Oh, he's
Uh,
on the Windy City Bulls. How about that?
that's why I thought I was like, yeah. I swear to God, I thought I saw him in the Windy
So
City.
he's been in. So since the Pacers gave up on him in 22,
You want to know what kills me
he's
about that
still in
too,
the
by
G
the
League.
way?
What's that?
So what kills me about Kiefer Sykes, and I mean, it's great he's finally made it to the NBA. But what kills me is how he got there is the basketball tournament, TBT, and he was playing for Ohio State's Carmen's or whatever the heck that is,
Yeah.
whatever the heck Carmen's Army. That kills me, man. That kills me. We don't have a team. With that, the Horizon League doesn't have a team. Kills me.
Well, the first year we put together our team.
You put together your team, but there's not been but there hasn't been one since. So still
Dude,
kills me.
dude, that's actually a very good idea. And it's not
I
something I
know.
ever really even considered. But a Horizon League All-Star team?
Yeah, I know.
That's actually that's you could put together a Horizon League All-Star team and win that tournament.
Yeah,
That could absolutely be done.
yeah. As you know, of course, there's kind of a logistical thing going on because people are putting money into that thing. Come on.
Yeah,
Why
I
else is
mean,
what baseball?
we probably
Seriously.
should have done that before.
Yeah.
When we started that, it probably should have been that. But we had, but Ed McCants was all about doing the Banner Boys thing, and I was clearly in love with that idea.
It was a good
I
idea at the time.
Well, I worked my ass off to get that team in there, I think I was. I don't think I've ever pushed for anything on social media more than I pushed for that. Hi, honey.
I remember.
Yeah, I'll take her out before I go to bed. Good night. I love you. Sorry. The dog's just gonna have to go out when I'm done with this. Um, yeah, I mean, we got. I think we finished like second or third in the votes for all the
I
schools.
believe you did.
What was that, Bob?
I believe you did. Yeah, that was a big push you there. I
Yeah,
remember that.
I had a
I remember
meeting.
that. I don't remember how Kiefer Sykes got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I had a meeting with the alumni association, and they let us send one email um, to their list, and we ended up pulling in, I think, something like 5,000 votes off of that alone. So I like how in the background there's a you if you look right here in the background, you can see my cat going to town on herself. This is the
This is why I'm glad I jumped in on the Discord and
some
not,
people are gonna
I,
prefer
I'm happy I
some
don't see that.
some people are gonna prefer to do the audio version of this podcast. They don't want to see my
And I
face or my cat
do
lick
not
her
blame them.
crotch. Um, beside just moving past that because that's 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, we have a lot of changes in the conference. Couple coaching
Yeah.
changes, four of them.
Well, three. We don't know what Detroit Mercy is doing now.
What do you so I think
Nobody has a clue. No
we're
one.
all assuming that they have no money, right?
I
Like
don't
I think
know. I
that's the
mean,
idea, is that Detroit doesn't
I
have
don't.
the cash
Well,
to
see, here's
go
the
and
question that I have. Well, see, I guess they don't, but I mean, even if that was the case, somebody's going to take that job.
yeah.
And I mean, my original thought was they didn't do it last week because the two guys that we thought, uh, I guess Tony Paul had a list of the finalists. I don't know if that. I mean, I assume that those are the finalists. Two of them were guys who were assistants who were playing, whose teams are still in the tournament. J.R. Blunt and DeAndre Haynes.
Yeah.
And okay, well, first of all, Iowa State, which is where J.R. Blunt is coaching. I'll coach with Daniel Robinson, by the way. Um, eliminated on Thursday. Marquette got eliminated on Friday. It's Tuesday,
Yeah.
and we're waiting. In that span of time, we've had Scott Nagy leave and Clint Sargent get promoted, and Jared Calhoun leave, and Ethan Fogler get promoted. Really,
And poor and
and Paul Corsaro get hired and get his
brought
have a
and he brought
do
over
his
several transfers already too.
it's basically he brought over like half of you with Indy.
Yeah.
Presumably all the presumably a bunch of the scores. He got a guy from Rockhurst too. I can't remember his name.
Hmm.
I just posted it. I can't remember the guy's name. I almost missed it.
I will pull it up right now. Tamaris Brown,
Yeah,
a
go to
sophomore
the
forward
go
with.
to the go to the transfer tracker on
I'm
HorizonRoundtable.com.
literally on
Look
it
him
right
up.
now.
Thank you.
15.7 points a game, 6.5 rebounds,
Yeah,
1.6 assists per game from Rockhurst.
ironically, Rich Fyrie's old teammate.
Stack on the YouTube says, talked to a big donor when I was at Callahan Hall in January. Said the main issue they had was money. He thought they'd have to keep him another year. And he was
Well,
meaning Mike Davis.
yes, yes, and apparently, my understanding is Davis did him a solid and just walked away with nothing. Hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking.
I mean, Mike Davis doesn't need the money, man. I mean, he's got a bunch of money. He's still got a bunch of money from when he was like Indiana and UAB. I mean, he got a bunch of money there.
Maybe he agreed to defer it or something for a few
I
years.
don't know if he deferred it or just said, you know what, but yeah,
We
but
know they
yeah,
have we know they have money issues. Um, one
that
of
was
the things that I thought was wild that I was thinking about the other day because I went into a little studying into lacrosse in NCAA, and I was reminded that Detroit Mercy has a program, and it's
yes, they
just
do.
it's an expensive program for a non-revenue sport.
Yes, it
Um,
is. Ask me how I know.
yeah, I do. I would like to know because I put a thread on our UWM freak message board
Yeah.
a few days
So
ago. Yeah, go
so
ahead.
yeah, so that was kind of John Perry's pet project to get when John Perry um, was the AD at Cleveland State. He did absolutely nothing except his pet project, which was to get men's lacrosse to Cleveland State,
Okay,
and he almost did it at the expense of the wrestling team. Came very
really.
close. That was a mistake.
So
But so what ended up happening was they actually did. They the students had like a referendum. It was non-binding, of course, um, where they asked students to vote whether or not they wanted to add extra money to their student fees. The referendum actually passed, and taking that as I guess a recommendation, they just upped student fees and kept wrestling, brought in lacrosse, and I think added some more scholarships. Added an actual women's track team. It used to be just like cross country runners running in track during the spring, but now it's like a full track
now it's a full track program. Okay.
team. I mean, as full as you can get, I guess. But yeah, it does exist. So that was it. All because John Perry wanted to do his little thing, his little pet project. Because remember, his because lacrosse was at Butler at one point in time too, and then it magically disappeared after he left
Wait.
for the reason for the money reason that you mentioned earlier.
Well, I mean that's my question. Like, how much is lacrosse a year? Like, it can't be.
Um, oh, I haven't looked at the numbers recently because most of the students that most of, nearly they don't get full scholarships. Cleveland State lacrosse team they don't get scholarships. Not all of them. I know that well, they usually get partials. And then I have no idea. I mean, it's probably I want to say it's somewhere north of $750,000. I haven't looked at it. I actually haven't looked at the budget because I'm a weirdo who reads these things and I can't remember what their fiscal year budget is for this year,
Mhm.
but I think it is north of 750 with the salaries and the scholarships.
I mean, that's a
Give or,
lot
give
of
or take
cash.
give or take about 100K. I don't remember.
It's a lot of cash at Detroit Mercy.
That's a lot of cash for Cleveland State.
I mean, this is what I'll say for Detroit Mercy though, because in lacrosse you can use a well, what is the maximum scholarships are like 12.6
Yeah,
for that. So
exactly.
if I'm looking at their lacrosse team, 12.6 whatever whatever that list of guys is for the rest of that team, which is
I
upwards
remember
of
they have
40
men's and women's
guys.
cross too. By the way, they have both.
So they and I think for women's lacrosse it's like 13 scholarships you can do.
Give or
So
take something.
so you're looking at probably 50 kids between the two teams that are not scholarship athletes.
That would be
And
my guess. Yes.
so I think there's your cost right there for Detroit Mercy, right? Is that
Probably.
you get a lot of guys that want to continue to play, but they can't continue to play because you know they don't they want to keep playing. They're Division One or borderline Division One level talent. So maybe they have the opportunity to keep playing. But I will also say this: they suck at lacrosse. so
Okay.
so
Point me
clearly,
to
I
the.
don't think I
I'm
don't
sorry.
think they're
Point me to
spending a
the.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, but point me to the sport that they're actually good at.
Yeah,
Finally,
I don't
women's
know what
women's
they're.
basketball, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's a little tough, but getting a little too far away from the basketball. As we don't know who they're gonna hire. Paul Corsaro is the guy. I am just
Yes,
gonna start doing it now because I don't want to have to do it later. But unfortunately, we have to stop calling them ooey pooey.
we
Um,
do.
they are no longer ooey pooey. They are Indiana University of Indianapolis.
IU Indianapolis, and I think they're actually gonna. I think they're gonna try to get away with calling themselves IU Indy.
IU Indy is
It
probably going to be their best option. I would
is their best
actually,
option, but I'm sure it's going to cause some awkwardness with the U of Indy.
yes. Thank God there's not a
Okay.
small private University of Milwaukee here that would stop me from. If there was a small private school called the University of Milwaukee, I would be going for Wisconsin State all day, but it doesn't matter. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I almost wonder if like they should have gone for like a quirky name for the university entirely. Like not even like IU anything or any maybe just like
oh no. If it's an IU school, it's going to be IU branding all over the place. And
what
if I'm not,
yeah.
my yeah, we there's nothing we can do about that one, man.
I just wonder if it would be a good idea. Like I think a cool brand for them would be I you literally call them the ICU. Indianapolis City University would be so sick.
Yeah, it could be the Metros again. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I was way off. By the way,
What's that?
hold on a second. I was way off about the. Okay. Actually,
Oh, the cost
I
of
was kind
lacrosse.
of off. It's 619
Oh,
is
okay.
the cost.
For the men's team, or was that both?
Correct.
Okay.
No, that's for the men's. We don't have women's. But yeah,
Oh,
six
okay.
nineteen for the yeah 619 for the all that good stuff.
So my difficulty with lacrosse is that my only experience in college lacrosse is about as good as you could possibly get. Um, in all through college, one of my best friends, his parents had been sucked into a timeshare,
Nice.
and they allowed us to use their timeshare for spring break, freshman, sophomore, junior years. My senior year, or well, like my first senior year, um, they did
Don't
not
feel bad.
allow us
Some
to
of
use
us
it
have had many.
because my friend Matt was getting married, so he needed it for his honeymoon so that he could take his new wife Carissa to Hawaii. But we went to Myrtle Beach 3 years in a row, and then the fourth year, I was kind of stuck. So my sister says, "Well, why don't you come visit me?" And at the time, my sister was living in Baltimore. My brother-in-law is an iron worker, and they needed somewhere like he needs to go somewhere there's a lot of projects. Then they had a few hospitals, they had a few hospital projects, and I think it was a bridge in. I think there was a bridge that he worked on in Baltimore. I don't think it was. It was not. It was not that bridge that just came down. Um, This
Oh,
was 2009. That bridge that came down was there for like 40 years.
I know because I drove over
Um, yeah,
like 2 weeks.
I think
Yeah.
I actually drove over it too. Because I spent my
Long
senior year
ago,
spring
yeah.
break there. And my sister, well, my brother-in-law's there. My sister she had just finished wrapping up her master's thesis. She had her master's in anthropology from Milwaukee. Um, so she was just working at a bar, and a bar on the corner at nights. She was opening that bar, um, and then one of the nights she was, or during the day she was working at a public health nonprofit. Um, so I visited her in Baltimore, and one of the guys at the bar was his. I think he was a banker in Baltimore. His name is Paul. Really cool guy. Um, he started talking about lacrosse, and I was like, oh, I got a couple of friends on lacrosse teams. That was my, my entire experience with lacrosse was college lacrosse. It just wasn't NCAA lacrosse. It was the, what do they call it, the MCLA, so like the Club Lacrosse Association, that
Yeah.
had a couple hundred schools in it. So it's a big thing. In
Yeah.
fact,
I mean, I know.
I think it was 2008. They put 100,000 people in that Cowboy Stadium for their like their Final Four. So, which is crazy for club college sport. Like you'd think that might be the NCAA
Yeah.
thing. Um, but
Yeah.
anyways,
Lacrosse is kind of under the radar popular. It's yeah. I mean,
it's definitely a
it,
niche sport. But because the
yeah.
Major League
Really.
Lacrosse isn't on like the NHL level, it's definitely like not no, it's not noticed as much. Um,
No.
and obviously the NHL is much larger, hockey is much larger, but there
Of
are
course.
50 schools that play lacrosse, and my one experience was my sister's customer who lived across the street from the bar, Paul, took me to see Johns Hopkins play lacrosse in 2009.
And now
Johns
standing across the book,
Jo-
I'm not mistaken.
so this game that I went to, it was at Johns Hopkins. So Johns Hopkins was number 2. They were hosting Virginia, who was number 1. The game was on ESPN, and it was a sellout on a Saturday night, a Friday night or Saturday night, but in at Johns Hopkins campus. So me, the big sports guy, I'm a big college sports guy. I'm like walking around like this is the coolest experience I could possibly have. Lacrosse was like it was a very much an experience like a fall football game, like a supersized high school football game, or in Texas, a small high school football game. Um, there were I think it was definitely a sellout. I think it seats something like 9,000 fans, so I think they sold out 9,000 for that game. Um, Obviously the national TV, like I think Quint Kessenich was the dude who was doing it for ESPN. And I'm like walking around, just kind of taking it all in. And lacrosse is an exciting sport. And I came home and I was the sports editor of the UWM Post, and I'm like, I'm gonna make my elevator pitch as to why we should do this. So I put together this pitch for for us to have this, and nobody listened to me. Except somebody did listen to me. The problem was that somebody was not at my university. It was somebody at Marquette.
Oops.
So years later, I ran into a somebody who worked in the Marquette athletic department, and she told me that my column in the UWM Post was picked up by several donors who decided, hey, we should do this because we're not going to ever get football back. but we should do this. Great. And they made it happen. Um, it's just, it is what it is. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, we'll probably never get it, and that sucks, but it is what it is. I made a pitch that we should ditch baseball and do that instead. Of
yeah. I
course, the
think we
the
we had
Horizon League would be angry at us for doing that.
yeah. Well, that's that ever since UIC. Yeah, I think ever since UIC left, that's just been. Although, yeah, like, by Horizon League, you mean Wright State win the
Yeah,
regular game,
yeah.
which I get, because that's Northern Kentucky actually has a very good baseball team this year.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on it ever since again John Perry got rid of it at Cleveland State. It was John Perry who did that. So
Oh, it was.
oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah, the only yeah he was basically his
No,
own.
you said it was
I
his baby.
yeah, his baby was lacrosse. Baseball was not, which is why he made it disappear. Also, Cleveland State had this terrible. They were no the baseball team was nomadic. They were in a million different stadiums. They were in a million different fields over like 20 years. It was
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
mean, Brian in the YouTube chat says can't lose baseball. I tell you what, Brian. It's cool that Dalton Varsho got to the major leagues from UWM, which is surprisingly the first major leaguer that Milwaukee's had, despite
Really.
despite a few dozen alumni drafted in the major league draft, and several of them as high as like the second, third round. It was surprising, but great that he got there. Um, I think that baseball's biggest utility for us is that it is it's that it exists. And that's not a knock on like the guys who play baseball. Um it's not that I dislike baseball as a sport. I love baseball as a sport. The Brewers are near and dear to my heart on a level that none of the other pro teams are. I love the Bucks, but they're not the Brewers to me. Um, my Brewer fandom has been somewhat dormant lately, but I love it. College baseball is a totally different story.
Yeah.
Yes, it's fun because the players are more into it in a way that like not quite but close to the idea of like the PGA Tour to like college golf. Like college golf is very much like the Ryder Cup. Like there's a lot of like like team like URA stuff going on the course. Um, and the same way for college baseball, like the players are always into it. And I always had respect when they played at Hank Aaron Field. That dump that's a poor excuse for something named after you know the maybe the greatest athlete to ever play for a Milwaukee pro sports franchise. And they used to take care of that field. Like in between innings, it would be the players dragging the rakes. It would be the players that mowed the lawn. It would be the players took care of the place. So I always thought that was great. But now that they play at Franklin Field, which is on my side of town for the next few weeks, um, now that they play so far away, it it's almost like a who cares.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and
There you go.
they never got a lot of fans when they played at the Hank, and that and it wasn't just because it was a dump. It's just I just don't think people care about college baseball in the North because it's
Oh
very
yeah.
hard to win. The vast like 90% of the talent goes south. In fact, the teams all go south for the first 2 months of the year
Well, they have to. I mean,
because the
look at
season starts in
look,
February.
exactly.
But
I mean, look at the
but
geography of it, and you can't. It's kind of impossible.
But I will also point this out, and what I'll point out is that, um, the baseball is just not. It's a complete afterthought. Lacrosse, you have home games in February and March,
Yeah.
and people can go
This,
to them. I don't know.
so
I'm gonna throw out
this is what Cleveland.
a
If
guess.
I should throw this out
I'm
because
guessing
this is
you
what
guys
Cleveland
don't get
State does.
much attendance.
No, well, but we do get it. And here's the kicker, because I don't at Cleveland State, Crenslor Field, which is the multi-purpose,
Yeah,
they do
it's a
soccer.
soccer field too. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have the dome. They put a dome up there, and it's been up there for like a decade. And so
Really?
they play indoors in February and March.
What's the
They
temperature
play.
like indoors in February and March?
I have no idea. I've never been there.
Oh,
I just know it exists.
John Parker just came into chat, and Paul Swiderski is here. Paul, you were there on Saturday. I actually had the option to go on Saturday to the Panthers baseball game, and I neglected to because I had other stuff going on. So, if attendance is 298, is that a hard 298, or is it more like what I would say? Are they counting both of the teams and everybody who's working the game with the couple dozen parents and friends, and maybe like 3 actual like paying fans besides like the parents, and then multiplying that number by 3? Because 298 sounds like a very high number for our program for baseball.
Yeah.
And
So to put it in perspective, I think you can get under the dome. You can get up to.
they had some high school teams that had tickets. Got it.
Yeah, I think under the dome. I think you can get. I want to say they can get up to 750 under the dome. I don't know how they do it, but they do. Um, I mean,
I would love to see that in the world where Jimmy has enough money that he can travel at the drop of a hat. I would love to
yeah,
fly down to Cleveland and check out the mass transit situation and
yeah. So, oh
check
wow,
out a
holy cow.
lacrosse game.
So this is yeah. So I'm looking at because they actually did have a home game. They played High Point.
Okay.
They played High Point in February 24th.
High Point where Bart
And
Lundy used to coach basketball.
yeah, the attendance for that game was 521 under the dome.
Okay.
So compare that to freezing your butt off on a baseball field.
That's crazy.
Now, keep in mind, Cleveland State's had about a decade, a 10-year head start on it. Although they weren't very good last year, to tell you the truth. They're much better this year.
They're 5-5 this year, aren't they?
They are. They were like, yeah, they are 5-5. And they beat Robert Morris, who also has and Robert Morris, which they play, which was a home game too.
This is serious.
I know.
He's a kitten.
Oh, it was only 338 for that one. Only.
It's more
Funny
than my
enough,
baseball team gets.
yeah. Funny enough, Cleveland State's next home game is next Wednesday, and they're playing Queens.
Okay.
That's
No, I think they just beat
bringing the whole Bart Lundy full circle.
Queens actually just lost to Detroit for Detroit's first win of the season.
Yeah.
So Cleveland State better win that game.
So Cleveland State, ever since Cleveland State got to the Horizon League, got to lacrosse, their last game of the year has always been against Detroit.
You know who doesn't have an issue getting fans to games is the women's basketball tournament. Because obviously they're selling out. They sold out Albany yesterday.
Well, yeah,
Did you hear the ratings numbers?
12.3 million.
So Nicole Auerbach, who's a football writer for the Athletic,
Yes,
she says Iowa LSU most highly anticipated women's game since when? And this is yesterday afternoon. And Matt Schnuck, a big Panther fan, says any Tennessee versus Connecticut game from back in the day is most highly anticipated with that. And then
that's true.
I responded to Matt. I said, "Hey man, you'll never have a TV rating like tonight. This is going to be the highest rated women's game in history." And
It did. It was.
he says tonight's game will be a record. Shocked if that happened. Looking around 7 million. And then he puts up the 10
Ooh,
most watched women's basketball games of all time. So going into
yeah.
yesterday, number 10 was Tennessee Auburn at 7.22 million. These were of the 10, all but one were finals, the actual national championship game. The only semifinal was Stanford, Virginia in 1992. Funny enough, you
Huh.
keep going. Last year's title game is the number 3 going into last night at 9.92 million. And I will say this, I'm more impressed with that than I am with the number 1 and 2 above it on this list. Because in 86, Texas and USC played in front of 11.22 million on TV. And in
I'm sorry, what year was
83,
that?
that was 1986. And in
Yeah.
83, USC and Louisiana Tech had the record with 11.84 million.
You know
Those
who was
are
on that Louisiana? You know who was on that Louisiana Tech team, right?
Kim Mulkey was on that Louisiana Tech team.
He was, and Cheryl Miller was playing for USC.
Cheryl
This
Miller.
is how you know I've watched.
You watch
Yeah, Cheryl Miller.
Cheryl Miller highlights. She was legit.
Yeah, I mean this. I don't know if it's like it's a madness for me that I have to watch documentaries all the time.
She's like the first goat.
The Yeah, yeah, HBO had a whole documentary on the USC women's basketball team. So yeah, that's where that came from.
So I went to him. I said, "Do we have last night's numbers yet?" And I said that this morning, and he's like, "Holy shit, 12.3 million." So it beat it by point, 400,000. That's a hell of a bump, especially considering the 83 and 86 finals both happened in an era where cable had maybe like 15 to 20 channels.
Yeah,
And obviously there was no streaming, so you
and
have
not everybody had cable in the 80s, back then,
right.
especially in '83.
And I did say the word streaming,
But
so I should give a shout out that we do dearly miss the old Horizon League network. Um, they were so ahead of their time with that, by the way.
that they were.
So for those who don't know, because some of these guys in here are pretty young,
That is true.
before ESPN was broadcasting games,
You know, we got to do our old man voice at this point.
before just about every streaming service existed, the Horizon League put all of their games on a website called horizonleaguenetwork.com. You didn't need to have an account. You didn't need to, sign up for anything. You watch the same kind of ads you see now, which are like this one local car dealer or insurance agent 7 times, 7 to 20 times during a game because watch for ESPN3 they don't sell a lot of corporate ad space. The Horizon League network had those, but like there was no, you weren't paying for anything. Like it was given to everybody, and I love it and I miss it so much because that was what it was my one of my favorite nights as a college basketball fan was that one tournament where the quarterfinals and semifinals, and it was in Valpo, gave us all of those buzzer beaters. What year was that?
That had to have been, I want to say 2012.
2012 or I don't think it was 2012 because
It might have been 13.
I was in Valpo in 2012.
Maybe it was 13?
Valpo, 2013 was when Detroit won at Valpo
Yeah.
in the title game.
Yes.
So that had to have been the year. But that Horizon League tournament, I had every computer had that full screen in front of me. And it was no 2013, yeah, 2015 maybe. I don't know. The point is there were like buzzer beater after buzzer beater after that Tuesday, it was the Tuesday night of that tournament when like basically the entire like every team was like winning on like buzzer beater shots. It was all over ESPN that night too because it was like holy crap, this this one conference just like went completely crazy. Yeah, so before I really wrap things up because I don't want this to go on. I don't want this to go on forever. This was proof of concept that I'm going to be doing this, but I'll go one more real podcast bit, but I do want to talk about the podcast itself. Um, this I do have the B-side logo up here. This is not the B-side. This is me doing my testing things. I'm working through like OBS to make sure I have all the right stuff. See, like what I just did there was I switched to a different scene that has nothing in it right now. I could switch to that.
See, now I'm gonna leave. I gotta see all this now.
Yeah, I mean it's it's fun. But I'm gonna be putting together all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna be able to have other guests if they're not gonna be like in studio with me. They'll be there. All right, Brian. Oh, that's awesome. You have a good time, man. I'll be putting stats up. I'll have video. I'll have I'll have player, whoever I get for interviews will come on, whoever we get to do like co-host bits, we'll have different setups for each of those. Right now I really wanted to see, okay, remind me how to do the basics of OBS to make it look good. I don't know if this is as big as I want it. There we go. So I don't know if I want to
So when you're bringing in the guests, how are you going to bring them in? Are you going to bring them in through Discord? Or are you going to go through like Zoom?
I think that I wanted to do Twitter Spaces, and then I found out you couldn't do Twitter Spaces from a desktop, which is
You can't.
preposterous. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just allow
Do
you
you
to?
really want me to answer that?
I don't know. It's Twitter, man. It's Twitter. They have this like great idea, and then they're like, oh, we're not gonna give creators the ability to do this, well.
I would suggest Skype, but I'm the only person in America who uses it.
No, my mom still uses Skype. I have a Skype. I have a Skype account so that Kathy Lemke can can video message me because she has an Android phone and I have an iPhone.
Yeah, you can't. I'm pretty sure you can't. Didn't we try to get you to use Skype on an iPhone and it just ended badly?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think I think the audio was the real issue. So we'll definitely get into figuring out the audio.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Check
this out.
My cats are having a wrestling match.
And
Oh,
this is where I leave you.
He just body slammed her.
Good night, Jimmy.
Good night, Bob. All right, so just a little bit of like where we're at the end of this. To kind of wrap this up, I'm gonna be working on graphics. I'm gonna be working on all these things. If you guys have suggestions for people to talk to, I'd love I'd love to have have ideas about who we do podcast interviews with. Um, I think that they would be good specifically for the live things like this. Um, it would be nice to be able to get people, either get a guy, maybe where I take the laptop and stuff over to the O House Center and we just have that. Yeah, JLJ. I don't know what are we calling him, because I feel like the last year I called him John Lovelace Jr. and I want to have there be just a little bit of change, maybe a little more like familiarity, because it is so weird having a guy who was like a big thorn in our side and somebody our players were really getting into pissing contests with, and all of a sudden he's on our roster. It's like I guess yeah, it's still awkward. um I really want to get his Panther jersey, and then instead of his name on the back I want to get a clown emoji, because I think that would be he likes Johnny Cash, etc. Well, obviously, I don't know anybody else with that name, so I'll call him etc. Um, that's a good strong name. Yeah, BJ was a shit talker. Stack says he thinks it was mainly just BJ. I agree with that. Hey, no, don't do that. There's nothing in that bag. It's just I don't want him getting in the habit. He's trouble. Pounce Panther had this fantastic post on Instagram the other day where the Pounce Panther yesterday was kicked out as Pounce, and they brought in a live mascot. If you're not aware, UWM, as recently, I believe it was 1974 when they got rid of it, actually had a live Black Panther mascot at, I think it was just football games. But cool as shit. They had a live Black Panther at games. Um, well, I think John, you should, or Mike, you should definitely see if that's something with a podcast, because maybe we should come up with the nickname. Like, we should get him on a podcast, and then you and me just like come up with a list of nicknames, and we just rapid fire them at him and see which ones he likes. I'm gonna put I am asking Chat GPT this thing. In fact, let me separate this. So it'll be easier. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. Bear with me for a second. I'm gonna get my input on here again in a moment. Um, there, I should be back in the audio. Um, so this was one where I set up where I was gonna do um, guests over there, and I was actually gonna change that background, which actually just becomes this border. I was gonna change that background depending on what school they were from. So like every school's colors kind of has their own thing. Um, for like that, I would do that with him. You know, I would have him on that. But I do want to not display window capture. Add existing window. Oh no, we're gonna create chat. So this, and you can see it's very large, right? Well, we don't want it to be that large. No capture the cursor, so I'm gonna do this. That's fine. All right. Obviously, that's too big, so I lower it to be more. See, I don't know if I would do that for like my size or something, but let's just make it larger for now because we're gonna chat. We're gonna enter um, YSU guard John Lovelace Jr. decided to transfer home to Milwaukee to play for Coach Bart Lundy at the University of Milwaukee. What are 10 nicknames Panther fans can use for Lovelace? The Milwaukee Marvel. Mike, this one goes hard. This one goes so hard. Dude, JLJ Buckets. This is getting suggested to him right now. We are going to add new. We're going to snip that. And I'm going to go over to, and I can do this. I will add a new tab. And we're going to go to Twitter. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this out here. And I'm going to tag the gentleman and say, what do you think? Pictures. Screenshots. I asked ChatGPT to give us nicknames Panther fans could have for what's his Twitter account? Oh, John Lovelace Jr. 1. There you go. So I tagged him in the post so you'd see it. JLJ Buckets is the shit, by the way. Need 5 more. The Panther Prowler. Do these all sound like Most of them just sound like bad comic book names. Johnny Buckets, I feel like there's got to be a Johnny Buckets already, right? Johnny Buckets. See, there's some guy named Johnny Buckets. Looks like a New Jersey high school basketball player. There's even a Johnny Buckets podcast. There's a podcast for everything. God damn. Gosh darn. Lovelace Lockdown. You call him Lockdown Lovelace. Give me 5 really goofy nicknames. Bounce House. That's actually good. Bounce House. Johnny Lovelace put down. Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. Good point. So let's just check out John Lovelace's Twitter account here. First off, he's got a Johnny Lovelace shop that we will be looking at shortly. We're also going to take a little peek. Graphics guy here. Obviously, like I'm going to have some things to say on this. But I think nothing frustrates me as much as seeing the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee. So if you zoom in on the picture, or maybe what we got to do is look at the image in another tab. It says the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee. Milwaukee. What the hell, dude? Add it to the list though of all the shitty deals. Oh, I never noticed it said neighborhood hero here. Yeah. I actually texted the. Oh, there is no Johnny Lovelace shop. It's just a. That's unfortunate. Um, I like looking at the likes. I like looking at likes and follows. Who are you following and what do you like? This guy's talking to Jordan Lovelace. Let's look at Jordan Lovelace. I'm assuming it's his brother. I'll look at some high school highlights. What do you guys think? He's definitely a high school kid, that's for sure. Look at the defense. Oh, picks his pocket. Makes the smart move, doesn't go for the finish. He's a little slight. He's gonna need to hit up the weight room, but he's got skills. and I'll retweet that because I want to know more. So, I think we should kind of, I don't want to say ditch it at that, but it's 11 o'clock. I've been doing this for too long. Um, there's gonna be a lot more production value going into this. Um, I'm not gonna be able to do it initially, for lack of funds, but if this podcast ever becomes something that or podcast and Panther U becomes something that I could, um, make a little bit of money off of, that would be nice. So I'd like to put that up there. Let's see. I'd like to get a code. This is the idea that I just had. Podcasts do sponsorships. I'd love a I'd love a code. All right, Paul, take care. I'd like a code that I can do commercials for, the basketball seasons, basketball games, and then you use my code. You can get either season. I think season tickets what I've been wanting to do it for, but like maybe like a 5% discount code on anything that's like above the 99 level. Where it's not much, and then maybe they like kick me a couple dollars or something. But I'd like to do that. But we gotta get established first. We're way before we're talking about any kind of sponsorships. Um, let's see. So I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you guys for paying attention to it. I may pull the audio out of this and then just edit that and put it up on some kind of service, and we'll go from there. So have a good night, guys, and we'll probably be doing one of these a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. So either 2 or 3 more times, probably 2 times the rest of April, because the last weekend of April I'm up north, and obviously we have the move, so there's a lot going on there. So I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have a fantastic night, and we'll see you soon.